Last night, professional wrestling destroyed sports entertainment. What a call from Michael Cole last night. My God, you talk about mixed emotions. That's what I have today. We are less than 24 hours removed from John Cena's final match last night on Saturday night's main event versus Gunther. I was not home to watch this live. I was really bummed out about that. I wasn't able to watch the show until I got home late last night, but I did eyeball the show on my phone, even caught the finish of Gunther and Cena on my phone, but didn't get to see the whole thing until last night. So I've had an entire night to kind of process it. I've had an entire night to kind of flip-flop my opinions on the match. Initially I had no issue with it because I just kind of watched it on my phone. Then when I watched it in its entirety, I'm kind of understanding the complaints a little bit more. And it's kind of a mixed bag. I can kind of see both sides, but I do feel like some mistakes were made last night. Or at the very least, some things could have been presented or executed a little bit better. But with that being said, I think the enormity, the magnitude of John Cena wrestling his final match for me personally, kind of overtook my concern for how the match was booked. And I think I was satisfied enough with the ending that I'm not going to dwell on it too much. Because as we've seen over the past several hours, 12, 14 hours, the debates have been pretty furious on social media. A lot of differing opinions on this. Some people are just completely mortified and offended by the finish. Some folks understood it. Some people fall in the middle. Some people were okay with it, wished it could have been a little bit better. You got a whole wide range of emotions here. And one thing going into last night's match with Cena and Gunther that I was hoping would not happen is that the next day we were litigating the finish or debating the outcome or how it went down. I was really hoping that last night would be more of a celebration, more of a nice John Cena send-off. I was hoping that John Cena's send-off would surpass the emotion of Ric Flair's 2008 send-off, which I think was terrific. And if Ric Flair wouldn't have come back and gotten back in the ring again, I would have considered that the greatest retirement of all time, easily, by a country mile. And so I was actually hoping that John Cena's send-off after the match, whether he won or lost, and I said yesterday in the predictions, if he loses, then what I'm expecting is Gunther to get the fuck out of the ring and for Triple H to lead the roster out to the ring to bid him farewell. And that's exactly what happened. But it still kind of lacked a little bit of the emotion that we got out of Ric Flair's, but it was definitely better than, let's say, someone like The Undertaker's. So all in all, I'm going to kind of discuss with you guys the wide range of emotions I'm feeling, my reaction to it, and how I think we should react to it as wrestling fans, because one thing we have to understand, we can debate this all we want, but John Cena's career is over now. He can't untap out. You can't make that tap out go away. So we have to get it out of our systems, and then we got to move on because John Cena's career is over. There really isn't a point to debating this for the next 3 months. There's just no point. We saw what we saw, and we'll discuss whether or not it was a WWE call or a John Cena call. Feels like it has John Cena written all over it. A lot of people were like, this is 1,000% John Cena's call. I wouldn't say that. It probably was John Cena's call, but I'm certainly not going to say it was 1,000% his call because he just got done doing all his media rounds saying that WWE tells him what to do and he goes out there and does it. What year are we on? 2025, 11 years ago, 2014. Undertaker didn't make the call to end the streak. Vince McMahon did. And Undertaker went out there and did it. So why is it so hard to believe that Triple H wouldn't do the same thing to John Cena? Not only we're going to have you lose, we would like you to tap out. We think that that would be a fitting end to your career after never giving up, just the acceptance that you can't do it anymore and the tap out. We feel like that would be the best finish. I could totally understand that being a WWE call. So it depends on where you stand here, or what you're likely to believe. Do you believe it was WWE's call or John Cena's call? Nobody can say for sure. So nobody in the chat better say it's 100% this or 100% that. You don't know. Neither do I. We don't know for sure yet. We might find out. John Cena might let it slip in an interview, or maybe Triple H will, or maybe they'll lie about it. Who knows? But the point is, we don't know 100% for sure. So in my mind, I look at it like this. If the finish of last night's match was John Cena's call, then it's really moot, because whether we agree with it or not, John Cena has earned the right to go out any which way he chooses, even if it upsets us, even if it disappoints us, even if it makes us sad. All of his years of sacrifice, to his body and his life to put into this business, if he wants to go out in a certain way, we got no business crawling up his ass about it. However, if this was a Triple H call, and only a Triple H call, and he got John Cena's opinion on what the match should be and directly went against that, then he deserved every bit of the boos that he heard last night. And that's one silver lining here, that Triple H, may have objectively here made the right call for the right person to go over, or he might have not had anything to do with the finish at all. It might have been John Cena's call, but I absolutely adored the fans booing the shit out of him. Inject that into my veins all day. They chanted, "You fucked up." They booed him so loudly. They were trolling him during the post-show, chanting AEW and "you suck" and all that stuff. I love all that. Don't get me wrong. Triple H needs to hear that shit. But it's funny that they were shitting on him so hard for something that we're not even totally sure was his fault or not. But that's okay. I kind of enjoyed the boos anyway. So that was a little silver lining there. All in all, I was trying my best to not focus so heavily on any sort of disappointment surrounding the show, but trying to show Cena the proper respect and try to at least appreciate the moment, appreciate the retirement, understand and recognize the monumental piece of history that we're witnessing with our own eyes in real time. I was trying to put that first before getting all bent out of shape about how the finish went or whatever. So, like I said, it definitely could have been better. There were things about it that I have mixed feelings about, but I'm not coming away from John Cena's retirement loaded with regret, where I'm so bummed out, so disappointed the way it went, that kind of thing. I see the complaints, about the match. It definitely felt a little bit like a boner killer, to be honest, especially with the crowd there, and they were just waiting. They wanted to see a hero's victory in the end there, which I can understand, but I also had a hard time understanding where all of the shock was coming from. So that's kind of what we're going to get into here in a minute. Just wanted to give you my initial thoughts and to just put you guys on the spot right away in the chat. What camp do you lie in? Was it a good finish or was it a bad finish? Do you think Cena should have won or do you think Cena should have lost? I found myself in an interesting position because I wasn't necessarily in the Cena should win his final match camp, but I still kind of think he should have. Does that make sense? I went into last night thinking, no, Gunther should win. This is what we've had pegged ever since last summer. This has been on our radar. There should be no shock or no outrage. We've been talking about this specific match for months now before Gunther even lost the World Heavyweight title to Punk or whatever. So we've been talking about this for a while. Somebody's going to have to retire John Cena. And once we realized it wasn't going to be Cody, Gunther was the most logical choice after that. And we've been talking about Gunther, forever. So there shouldn't be any shock there at all with that. But when you saw the atmosphere and you felt the crowd last night, you started thinking like, oh shit, I think John Cena should win this because this is what the crowd wants to see. There's another thing to remember too. I saw a couple people point this out, and it's a really good point. There is a difference between someone's final match, like their wrestling finale, and a stipulation retirement match. Like Ric Flair's retirement in 2008, we all knew he was retiring. He went into the Hall of Fame. We went into that WrestleMania match knowing that was his last match. That actually shouldn't have had the stipulation of if Ric Flair loses, he retires, because we went into that knowing it was the end. But there's some other retirements that aren't like that. And with John Cena's, we were going into this match knowing that win, lose, or draw, it was his final match. So that could change also the fans' expectations for the match. If you're going into it with a mindset like that, this is John Cena's farewell, he should go out the way, that kind of made him famous type of thing. But at the same time, the traditionalist, John Cena wanting to give back, leave the place in a better, position than he found it type of thing. All of those years of dominating and winning all the time and overcoming insurmountable odds, beating 26 Nexus members in a handicap match at SummerSlam, all that shit that he did, I kind of think it is fitting that he should lose his final match, and he should go out in a way perhaps like a tap out or a submission. I didn't really have any problem with that going into the match, but once you were there, once you were in the atmosphere last night, and you could feel that, and you kind of started thinking, oh shit, I kind of think John Cena should win this final match and ride off into the sunset victorious. So for me, like I said in my predictions yesterday, I was really okay with any outcome that they chose. If Cena lost, I was going to be okay with that. And if Cena was, I was going to be okay with that too. I kind of just want Cena to go out on his terms or go out in a way that gives him closure to where he never has to worry about how he went out again. And I worried that there might be a little bit of a regret there just based on the crowd reaction when he tapped out. It definitely had Undertaker losing the streak vibes in terms of just the shock, which I was shocked by the fact that the crowd was shocked. They really did sit there with that, that fella in the front row when the streak ended. They were like that. I'm like, I think it's just more disappointment. You shouldn't be that shocked. Undertaker losing the streak shocked us. We weren't expecting that. I predicted Undertaker to win in my WrestleMania 30 predictions the week before. In my Saturday Night's Main Event predictions yesterday, I was predicting Gunther to win. But it still just came off very shocking, very deflating. Oh, that's the way it's ending. We wanted a little bit more. So, I think maybe there was some fumbles or missteps here, but at the same time, you kind of went with the outcome I thought you were going to do anyway. I just think the way it was executed and everything just kind of deflated the crowd and heartbroke them a little bit. But, that's life. So we'll dissect it a little bit more here in a minute. I just wanted to give you my initial thoughts as we came up here live and as I drop my pen. And now I will say hello to everybody in the chat and welcome you and thank you for being here this afternoon. Happy Sunday afternoon to you. Thank you so much for being here today for yet another Sunday doubleheader. We will be back later tonight for our classic watch along. But since I was not home last night and I couldn't see John Cena's final match, I wasn't going to be able to talk about his final match until today. In terms of my belief or my thoughts and opinions and memories of his career, we covered a lot of that yesterday. Just a lot of just free form, freestyle speaking about John Cena and his career and everything that he did and what he meant to me and what he meant to this YouTube channel, everything leading up to his final match. We covered that yesterday on the podcast ahead of Saturday Night's Main Event, where we also predicted the show. So this was my first opportunity to come up here and talk about it. I'm sorry that I'm interrupting football yet again, but this was our only time to really get these thoughts out of the way. So we'll be dissecting Cena versus Gunther a little bit more, but there are my initial thoughts on the match, and we'll get into more of it here in just a second. But I do want to say hello to people that are here in the chat. We've got some super chats that I need to get to, including our boy Ryan Adams. Before we even went live here today, he's dropping $100 in the chat. Ryan Adams is the man. He is our leader in our super chat leaderboard for the year of 2025, and he's the leader by a mile. So Ryan, thank you for yet another very generous super chat there. It's good to see you. Thank you for being here this afternoon. Cena reaching for the fans and being terrified about being in the choke again after that last AA. He had nothing left. His body was done. No Super Cena because that man died at SummerSlam to Cody. He was at peace knowing he had nothing left, so he smiled and tapped. That is the story I think John Cena was trying to tell there with that smile. But it felt like I couldn't completely tell if that's what he meant by it. You'd like to think that, that was him just saying, I can't do it anymore. My body is literally giving up. Never give up, but my body is giving up. He gave up a year and a half ago when he came out at Money in the Bank and said, I'm retiring. He's saying, I'm giving up. So the tap out really, in and of itself, doesn't bother me either. That's, kind of the right way to do it. He just is succumbing. He's accepting of his fate. But the way he had the look on his face, the way it came through on camera was, actually I have it here. Where is it? The way his face appeared on camera, it almost looked like you could take the smirk a couple of different ways. It could be like defiance. Maybe he was told by Triple H, we want you to tap out, and John Cena didn't want to do that. But he also never shuts the fuck up about saying that he does what he's told. If he's told to do something, he does it. So maybe he was told to do something, he didn't agree with it, and he basically made the jerk-off motion while he tapped. It could have meant that. It could have been compliance. This is what they want me to do, fine. Or it could have been, like Ryan pointed out, acceptance. Acceptance of his fate. I cannot do this anymore. I've tried to fight out of this. It's almost funny how strong this motherfucker is who's got a hold of me. That, old me would have rolled through this and AA'd this motherfucker down to hell and beat him, but I can't do it. I cannot escape this guy's hold. I've tried. I've rolled out of it. They did the arm drop gimmick. I fought out of it, and I just can't get out. What can I say, man? It's over. I can't risk permanent injury. I'm a fucking movie star. If I let him choke me until I pass out, I could get brain damage. I got to tap. So when you look at it that way, I'm okay with the tap out from that angle, So Ryan is right about that. Good to see Clone Force, the Gunther, the new legend killer, retires Bill and Cena, and you know who's next. If you're going to retire icons like Bill Goldberg and John Cena, Brock Lesnar. Gunther has to retire Brock Lesnar now. He has to. He has to. He doesn't have to retire Rey Mysterio. That is for Dominic. But I think he should maybe retire AJ Styles as well. I think AJ Styles at WrestleMania and Brock at SummerSlam. Think of that, those four guys just alone that he will have under his belt for retiring. He'd be the new legend killer. And I think Brock is the next logical choice to retire, or Gunther, or Brock is the next logical choice for Gunther to retire. He's got to be the guy. Good to see Isaac. We got Melissa. Pastime, overrated, John Cena. What fucking year is this? 2012? Oh my God. Get over yourself. Good to see Gilbert. We got Tatanani, Crazy J, Jimmy 99, 680. Who else is here? Nick Steele is here. Super Fluffy Toaster. We got Humble Heroics. What up? Geolish. Oh, I know you. I got to look at your channel so I can remember your name. Oh, yeah, just JL. What's up, JL? We got Surge in the house as well. Max Pokebruh. Fans were going to cry about whatever result happened. I don't know. I mean, obviously, some fans, you're never going to please 1,000% of the audience. But I think more were going to cry about it because of the way this happened. If Cena would have won, I think, yes, you would have had some complaints. Cena should have lost his last match. Of course, you would have had that. But maybe not as loud. I don't think people would be booing the fuck out of Triple H if John Cena would have won last night. So that's not exactly true, Max, but it's partially true. Yes, some fans were going to be pissed either way, but the finish they did last night generated the most anger. There's no other finish they would have done last night that would have garnered more anger than that. And a lot of fans said the same thing. I said this in my predictions yesterday. I said, if it was up to me, I think I'd prefer a pass out over a tap out. And if John Cena would have passed out, maybe that would have lightened it up a little bit. There's a lot of factors here. There's a lot of reasons as to why I think people were mad, and I would have preferred a pass out, going out like Stone Cold at WrestleMania 13, that type of thing, literally never giving up. If that was the finish, then and fans were still crying about it, I probably would be more vocal against that. I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with you guys? Of course he's going to go down. He passed out. Gunther choked him out. He didn't give up. He passed out. Referee called for the bell. Cena was overmatched. He won. He lost. Excuse me. What the hell are you complaining about? But it's the tap out and all of that I can kind of see that side. I can see what they're saying. But yeah, you're not going to ever please the majority of the audience ever. Spartan Sprinkles is here. Good to see Ben Espinoza, Zach Powgett, Denny Downbad, Jay Lambo, Nate Dogg. We've got J94 Nene. What up? Thank you for the $5. I think the Triple H hate is overboard. Show was Cena's idea, so he had some of a say. Also, the people asking for Vince to come back are freaking crazy. Yes. So the show, good point there with the NXT matches, that's what Cena pitched. He wanted to do that, and WWE obliged him. So if John Cena was able to book the rest of the card, why would he not be able to book his own finish? So yeah, even though we don't know for sure, there is a really good chance that this is what Cena wanted to do. And that's why I'm trying to curb my complaints or my criticisms of this as much as possible, because if this is what Cena wanted, then I hope that he got what he wanted, because I'd rather have him be happy than me. He's the one that put in all the effort. He's the one that put in the decades of wear and tear and abuse on his body, and put in all of those blood, sweat, and tears. If he wants to go out that way, who the fuck am I to tell him no? Sounds obnoxious, doesn't it? So if this is all what Cena wanted, and he's 1,000% content with how everything went down last night, then you know what? So am I. Because at the end of the day, that's all I want. I don't really care about myself. I've been watching wrestling for 45 fucking years. So I don't need to be absolutely perfectly pleased in this scenario. I've had a whole lifetime of wonderful, great professional wrestling memories. So if John Cena needs to go out this way and he's happy with it, then I'm happy too. That's kind of the way I got to put it. Jose Lopez, good to see you. Daniel Malcolm, happy you're here. I lost your comment. There we go. Iconic Cena was getting Super Cena. And don't give up, Chance, but I'm glad he did. And the footage of Gunther getting booed walking to the bus is why. Yeah, I mean, they have now created a super heel in Gunther. This is something that's going to stay with him, and he's going to hear about from fans, and they need to capitalize on this because, John Cena is not going to be the last guy that he retires. So this was, you talk about, giving people the rub and whatnot. I think this is something that is really going to positively affect Gunther. And if you did insist on John Cena winning his final match, then I would have put him in the ring against somebody other than Gunther. Just somebody that he could beat, somebody that has history with, a Sheamus, a Rey Mysterio, an Edge if you could get him, or somebody like that. Give him that final match, let him win, and then you can have the whole heroes bullshit or whatever. But when you're going against, one of WWE's toughest professional wrestlers that they have on their roster, you're going to have to go down in that situation. And now you've created this monster heel with some monster heat. And that's not a bad thing. So there's a silver lining there too. We've got Nicole. Good to see you, Nicole. Cold Apple, 100. Appreciate the 20 from you. Hey, good mic work. Do you think the boos were just about the finish or an overall frustration towards WWE and especially Triple H right now? Well, that depends. That's what I said. WWE creative is not good right now. Triple H is not the genius that he thinks he is. He comes off very, very assholish when he's on interviews. He's so far up his own ass. He's all over the place. He tries to be the main character of WWE. All these fans that think, Tony Khan's got a big ego, and nothing is like Triple H. Not to mention, him doing what Vince McMahon always insisted not doing, really kind of getting involved heavily in politics. It's one thing to have Trump in the corner of someone at WrestleMania before he's president and whatnot, but a lot of that MAGA shit, going on with Triple H is not endearing to the audience either, or a good portion of them anyway, and WWE's creative is dog shit. And it's right now anyway, they had a couple of good months there. They had a good 2023. Things got better when Vince McMahon left, but they've kind of plateaued out now, and Triple H has always had, this just disdain in his heart for the wrestling fans to the point where I think he actually gets off when we're disappointed. and he laughs everything off, and he never really he gets pissed about the criticism, but he never really hears it and does anything about it. And the fans are frustrated by a lot of things in WWE. So when they see that finish, Triple H, since he wants to be front and center on everything, what the fuck does he need to be on the WrestleMania ad for? Why is he there? Why does he need to be there? So if he wants to tell everybody he's in charge of everything you see, then he needs to be the number one person held accountable for what you see. And when you had 19,000 people hating the finish of that match, and then you got fucking dickhead coming out here leading the charge, he's going to hear it first. He's going to hear it first. So I think last night, the boos were probably just more out of sadness, more out of they didn't want to see Cena going out like that, which does share in its own, which does have its own level of irony to it. I mean, it's dripping with irony. Sometimes I'm like, these fans, do they hear themselves? I was around all those years ago. Like I said, this channel was partially born out of me speaking out against the norm, the Cena-hating norm, all these crazy fucking fans. And these fans that said the most outlandish things. John Cena is a cancer. John Cena is ruining wrestling. John Cena can't wrestle. And my favorite, the WWE is going to go out of business if they keep pushing John Cena, and TNA is going to be the number one wrestling promotion in the world. That is the shit that they said so confidently 12, 13 years ago. These same fans, David Dipshit, and all of his other friends that had so many horrible and hateful and unhinged and deranged things to say about John Cena, are now pissed that he lost. If you would ask that same guy 13 years ago, every single John Cena match on pay-per-view, when I used to do YouTube all these years ago, we'd do predictions and whatnot. Every single match that John Cena wrestled in, you always had people in the comments or in the chat or whatever the fuck we were doing insisting that John Cena has to lose this match. He's got to lose this one. And then if he didn't, what did they say? He's refusing to lose. He's selfish. He's holding people down. All that shit. That's just that's the way the logic in their brain moves. And it was just like, oh my God, these people are so fucking stupid. And now you get to 2025, you fast forward all these years, these same fans that called him a cancer, thought TNA was going to be the number one company, and John Cena's shitty wrestling and shitty promos and Barney costume and Fruity Pebble persona was going to put WWE out of business. That's what they said to me personally over and over in my comments and in my chat. These same people were probably a lot of the same fans that were disappointed or pissed off that John Cena lost the match. They just spent their whole lives saying that John Cena should lose in every match he ever has. And now he does, and they're pissed. Do you not see the irony here? And to me, that was something that was part of one of the more entertaining parts of last night, was seeing a lot of people saying he should have won. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? You guys just spent the last decade and a half acting like he's the worst thing that has ever happened to pro wrestling, and here he's actually going out in a way that a lot of people say is the correct way to go out. You should go out on your back. You should put somebody over. You should elevate someone, prop someone up on your way out, whatever cliche you want to use. A lot of veterans believe this. A lot of wrestling personalities believe this. A lot of fans believe this, that that's the way you should go out. I believe it just depends on the situation. You know, I think, yes, in theory, if I was a veteran wrestler that put 25 years in, I would want to give a little bit back. I'd want to pick the next young buck or my friend or somebody in the locker room that I know 100% is going to be the future of this business, and I want to lay down for them. Absolutely. But there might be a situation or a scenario that comes along where you could say, you know what, in this case, maybe he should win. And we've seen situations like that with well, now I can't think of one. who somebody kind of recently won the retire, like Trish Stratus is a good example, even though she came back. So there are cases where you can or you should perhaps win your retirement match. I guess you could kind of consider Stone Cold Steve Austin, but you can't really consider that either. Shawn and Steve, you can't really count because they both lost the retirement matches and then came back to win one. But the retirements were a loss. Shawn to Taker, Steve to Rock at WrestleMania 19. So most of the time, I feel like that's the way you should go out. But in some cases, you might come across a retirement and say, hey, in this case, in this specific case, he needs to win. And that's why I tell fans, don't just insist that there's only one way to do things. There's only one style of wrestling you should like, or there's only one way to cut a promo, or there's only one way to do a retirement. You can do it lots of different ways. What you want to make sure you do is you properly execute it appropriately for whatever scenario you're in. And last night can be debated on whether or not they did that. Garrett Osborne, happy you're here. Ajax Johnson, what's up? Part of the 40 Club now. Holy crap, you are 40. I'm assuming that means you're 40 years old. Have you made a will? Get on that. The end is near, my friend. I'm kidding. 40's young. Congrats to you, bro. Good to see Mr. J Lambo. Yachiro is in the house as well. Some of you, I'm going to your channel to see your names because I can't remember. Ronisha. Ronisha Thrist. It's good to see you too. Tony is here. And we have Master Builder 212. Juwan Hill. Kamante Jackson. Ben, I got you. Young South Wavy, nostalgia guy. Anybody else chiming in? Thanks again for being here. We've already done a lot of just freestyle chatting about John Cena's match last night, but the way the review is going to go is we're going to talk about Cena and Gunther first, and then we're going to backtrack and talk about the rest of the card. So it's going to kind of go in reverse order, sort of. And I just wanted to start out right away by giving you guys my initial thoughts on John Cena versus Gunther. Before we get into the match itself, last night, on Saturday night's main event, over 19,000 people in Washington, D.C. No Vince McMahon, no fat orange dipshit. President Kenkel McTaco Tits did not attend the show, thank God. Neither did Vince McMahon, although I believe Linda McMahon was there. Who else was there was Jesse the Body Ventura. Now, he was relegated to the pre-show here. He wasn't on commentary for this, but we thought Jesse might be done. We heard that his contract with SNME was done and we wouldn't see him again. And here he was back. So it was good to see Jesse Ventura on the show as well. We had a lot of Hall of Fame wrestlers and retired wrestlers, peers of John Cena, around the ringside area for his match. We had RVD in the house. We had Trish Stratus, Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens. Mark Henry was there. Kurt Angle was there. Even saw Eve Torres, who hasn't aged a day. Elijah was there as well. I saw Nick Khan in the crowd, and there might be some others. Let me know in the chat if I missed anybody there. But a lot of wrestlers were surrounding the ring area for the final match, and John Cena and Gunther did in fact main event last night. There was some early word earlier on in the week. I think it was Brian Alvarez who said, hey, I heard John Cena and Gunther are opening, and I had a hard time believing that, especially when Cena said he would probably close the show prior to that rumor even coming out. So I wasn't convinced that they were going to do that because as dumb as WWE can be, they can't be that stupid. There's never been a more obvious main event for a show. And if you're going to emotionally drain your audience in the opening of the show and then ask them to sit through 3 or 4 more matches, that's just dumb. So they can't do that. It's got to be all about John Cena. The last thing we need to see on the show is John Cena. And that's what they did, luckily. So John Cena and Gunther was your final match. Gunther is out first. Lillian Garcia, by the way, is the ring announcer for this, as she is on all Saturday night's main events. Gunther makes his entrance, and then out comes John Cena for his final ever entrance. So it was nice to kind of take that in. Like I said, I couldn't watch it live last night, but when I got home, Elizabeth and I sat on the bed, and we watched it in its entirety and just kind of took in the magnitude of it. And we were both at Survivor Series just a couple of weeks ago here in San Diego and got to see John Cena's second to last match of his career in person. So I felt good about that I at least got to see in person his second to last match, even if I couldn't watch his final match live. So getting to kind of see him do his last entrance and go through everything. And then, of course, Lillian Garcia with the ring introductions for the match. And then the match is underway. And you know what? It was pretty good. It was pretty good. I mean, I wasn't sure. what they were going to do tonight. John Cena, I certainly thought was going to go out there and give it his all. I didn't think he was going to walk through the match, but at the same time, if John Cena's got one more match in him and he's got a bunch of, movies on his schedule coming up in 2026, I'm going to be careful not to roll an ankle or blow out a knee or break my arm or something like that. But, you wouldn't have known it. John Cena was out there giving it his all, and I thought it was a good match, even though it was a simple one. A lot of Gunther dominance, a lot of chops, a lot of big boots, just a lot of, just high-impact strikes from Gunther, just putting Cena down. But Cena was still Cena. He fought out of everything and hit Gunther even with an early AA for a quick near fall. I think if I counted, there was probably 3 total AAs. I think we definitely had, or maybe 4. I think we had one early, and then we had a couple in the middle of the match. One of them was an Avalanche AA. I can't remember which one came first. It was either the Avalanche AA from the second rope or the AA through the table on the outside of the ring. And the funny thing is we're watching this last night, and Gunther goes to the outside of the ring, and he starts pulling the stairs off the corner of the ring, and he brings it over to not even when he's not even fully done dragging the stairs or the steps over to the announce table. I just nudge Elizabeth, and I'm like, okay, what's going to happen is he's going to go for a power bomb on John Cena, and John Cena is going to reverse it into an AA. You could see that while he was still dragging the stairs over there, because when you look at the position of the steps related to the table, and you're kind of thinking in your mind, what move are they going to do off that? I'm like, it's got to be, Cena's not going through a table. Gunther is. So it's going to be Gunther going for a power bomb and then Cena AAing him, and that's exactly what we got. And it was a pretty gnarly looking AA because Gunther came down kind of on his hip, and it really looked good the way the table crashed and everything. So he took a mega bump there. And then in the ring later on, it might have been before this, I can't remember the order of these moves here, but John Cena, it was time for him to go for one final 5-knuckle shuffle. And he told the crowd, this is it. Come on, this is it. Gunther is down. This is the last one. The last 5-knuckle shuffle. And he goes down to do it, hits the ropes. Gunther pops up, hits him with a big boot, and just thwarts that, which I really, really liked. So they get now into Act 3, and now it's going to be all about the sleeper hold. Now, Gunther, even though he was saying in his promos leading up to this that he's going to make John Cena tap out, he had a few very close near falls on John Cena. He had at least one power bomb where he pinned John Cena and he kicked out. I think the frog splash too. He went for his Gunther funky frog splash from the top, hit that for a near fall. So Gunther was trying to beat Cena. But then in the end, he locked in the sleeper hold. And it reminded me of the Andre and Hogan bear hug from WrestleMania 3 that lasted like an hour and a half. And he puts the sleeper hold on Cena, and what had to have been 5 good minutes of John Cena fighting to get out of it. And even one time rolls through it and hits him with an AA, right? And I think Gunther kicks out, or Gunther immediately latches back on the sleeper. So Cena fights out of it at one point, but Gunther puts it right back on him. Fights out of it again. Gunther puts it right back on him. And now they're going to do the arm drop thing. So he's got Cena in the sleeper. Referee comes over, lifts up the hand, drops once. Lifts up the hand, drops twice. Lifts up a third time. He does the hustle, loyalty, respect thing, and he's hulking up, and he's trying to get out of it. And then Gunther just starts raining down with the elbows, 5 or 6 or 7 stiff fucking elbows to the neck and chest, breast and head of John Cena, and then boom, just locks it right back on. Grapevines the body with the legs, and that's when you have that weird kind of look on Cena's face there. He knows he's not getting out, and Gunther's arm is around his neck, and he just kind of goes. And it was, the crowd reaction was just like, oh. Did you see on social media, it might have been TikTok or Instagram or whatever, but there was a fan who captured video of CM Punk and Bayley standing together watching the finish, and Bayley's like, what the fuck, man? So even some of the wrestlers were a little bit deflated by the way it went down. And just that really short sort of tap. And like I said, I think I understood the story John Cena was trying to tell with that, but the way it looked through the camera looked slightly different. Like it almost looked like, it made me think of the streak, where Undertaker didn't want to lose the streak. Vince made him. And since Undertaker is loyal to Vince, he's going to go out there and do whatever Vince tells him to do. So he went out and did it. And I was wondering, my initial thought was, is this an Undertaker streak type of thing? Where John Cena wanted to win or wanted the match to go a different way, and Triple H was like, no, this is what we want. And John Cena, because he always does what he's told, went out there and did it. But maybe it was his way of saying, I don't like this. And it was almost like a combination of a tap, a you can't see me, and even a jerk-off motion. So I was almost wondering if he's like, okay, fine, I'll tap out. I'm like, is that what he meant by it? But now that I've gone back and seen it and I've watched the match back, that's not what he meant at all. What he was trying to, I think, convey to the audience and the story they were trying to tell there with that finish is that John Cena just couldn't do it anymore. He had accepted his fate. This is the end. I can't sit here in the sleeper hold and risk brain damage. This guy is so fucking strong. There's nothing I can do to get out of this. It's almost funny that I was at one time so powerful and had the ability to overcome all odds, no matter what size or shape my opponent was. I could always beat anyone. And this guy is so relentless. I cannot get out of this fucking sleeper. This is my last match. I truly don't have it in me anymore. And this is proof of that. Goodbye, wrestling. And when you look at it like that, I'm perfectly fine with the finish. I think what it was, you talk about reading the room. A lot of people like to say that. You got to read the room. They didn't read the room. I think the room wanted a different outcome. But maybe that outcome wasn't something that really made the most sense for what they want to do for their future and what their plans are now for Gunther. Because Gunther's sticking around, Cena is not. Cena's gone. There is no more John Cena in WWE. He has already been moved to the alumni section on the WWE's website. So he's gone. So you get more mileage out of a Gunther win. However, I think as a fan, as somebody that's always appreciated John Cena more than any other fan, I always rebelled against, just out of pure principle, out of the deranged little fucking psychos that were so obsessed with him and hated him so much. I just always refused to conform to that because I was better than that. That fan in me, admittedly, would have preferred to pass out last night. Like, if I had to change it, I think I would have tried to preserve the never give up, because looking back, I think a lot of people view the streak ending as a mistake, and WWE doesn't want to have another one of these mistakes looming over their head for the next two fucking decades. So with John Cena going out like that, this is going to be a finish now that's going to be highly debated for years to come. We're always going to look back on this the same way we looked at the streak, because people are on both sides of that fence as well. Some people are happy the streak ended. I loved the shock of Brock Lesnar winning, but I was pretty heartbroken at the same time. It was bittersweet. It was like, holy shit, that is a WrestleMania moment if there ever was one, Undertaker losing the streak, but at the same time, you felt like your dog died. And I think people are going to have a lot of the same type of feelings about John Cena, and you're going to see debates, because with the streak, I don't see people like furiously debating it, wanting to tear each other's heads off over their opinions about the streak. And I think this will kind of be the same thing. I don't think there's nobody needs to die on any hill here, okay? It's just, I think you're going to have fans that are going to be on both sides of this debate probably for decades to come. Was that the right call? Especially when 5 years go by, 10 years go by. Hey, looking back, do you still feel the same way you felt back then when John Cena lost? Knowing what we know now about Gunther, where his career went, what he did, he might be out of the ring by that point. 10 years, Gunther's going to be 48 or something like that, or 49 or however fucking old he is. He's about 40 years old, I think. So when that time goes by, looking back, we might say, oh yeah, I'm glad that match went the way it did, or people might still feel like it was a mistake. Shout out to Rubio's. Still drinking my soda from them. So when it comes to the finish, it's always going to be debated, I think. And I don't think anybody's going to ever, really change their mind on their opinions of that until at least a couple of years goes by. But until then, we're all going to wonder, was this the right call? Was this what the fans wanted? And like I said, if it's a WWE call, it can be more debated. But if it's a John Cena call, then I say we shut the hell up because John Cena deserves. Even if he wanted to go out in the most asinine, ridiculous way ever, he wanted to bring back Dink the Clown and lose to him. If that's what John Cena wants, I can't tell him no. I would feel like a shithead if I did. Because to me, it's not about me. It's about him. It's about him. It's about his career. It's about his legacy and how he wants to go out. And if I had a career like that and I gave my entire life to the business, I wouldn't want a fan telling me how to go out either. I'd want to go out whatever fucking way I wanted to go out. And I'm not one to just, because I think it's really stupid sometimes and tone deaf to tell people when they don't like something, oh, just accept it. I would normally never say that. But this is an exception. I think with John Cena, his career is over. Like I said, he can't untap out. He's not going to wrestle again. So don't expend the brain energy, and all of that time and energy, furiously debating or being angry about something that you really can't control. And now that it's over, it's over. John Cena's not coming back. So now we have to live with how this ended. And it cannot be changed. So I would suggest, or I would recommend, finding acceptance to this, finding closure, And like I said earlier, the way I looked at it was the magnitude of John Cena retiring, the act of him retiring, us watching history in real time, one of the greatest careers ever coming to an end, and we're all watching it together. The magnitude of that was greater than any concern I was going to have for the booking. I think there's a time and a place to lose your shit and slobber and get all red-faced mad about the booking of a match, and I think there's times to let it slide. And this is one where I would let it slide. And like I said, especially if we learn that this was 100% John Cena's call, because I would just feel gross if I was up here saying, well, actually, to his career, if this is what he wants to do, it's what he wants to do. Shut the fuck up. It's the way it is. So there's a lot of things that probably could have been done better or differently, but overall, I'm choosing as a fan to accept it, and something that I would recommend most fans do. But we weren't done then after the match. We weren't done yet, I should say, because even yesterday in our podcast, I was saying, Cena, I'm expecting him to lose, and if he does, Gunther needs to get the fuck out of the ring, like immediately. And he did. Gunther left. John Cena was left there just kind of sitting in the ring, kind of taking it all in from the crowd. And he sat there while the crowd had a minute to breathe. Gunther's music shut off. They started clapping for Cena, and you just get that ovation, and something's coming. I'm just waiting. And out comes Cody Rhodes and CM Punk, our two world champions. And this was adorable. They come out to the ring first. They get in the ring. They each have their championships with them, and they put both of their belts on John Cena. I had completely forgotten about this, but years ago, in 2005, 20 years ago, somebody put the clip up on social media today that I saw. John Cena and Batista did the same thing for Hogan back in 2005 when they were both champions, and they were doing something in the ring. I think it was on SmackDown. I don't even remember. They were doing something in the ring with Hogan, and Batista and Cena put both their belts on Hogan. So it was kind of a callback to that. It was really cool. Really nice moment, especially all of the history between John Cena and CM Punk and what they've meant to each other's career. And even just this year alone, the ride that Cody and Cena went on with arguably one of the greatest heel turns ever that was not followed through with and fumbled miserably. But the heel turn itself was spectacular. Really, really shitty WrestleMania match, but they bounced back with a great SummerSlam match. And I was thinking, a year out, we've been talking about this all year. I thought Cody Rhodes might actually be the guy to retire John Cena. I had John Cena winning the championship and holding it until tonight. Cody Rhodes beating him for it. That's what I had initially on my radar all the way back in like February when the first heel turn, or when the heel turn first happened. But, it turned out to be Gunther instead. So Punk and Cody were out there to put the belts on John Cena. And then Triple H and Stephanie lead the entire locker room out as well. And holy shit, they started booing. I might have that wrong. Who came out first? Cody and Punk, or the Locker Room? I think it was Cody and Punk first, followed by the Locker Room, I think, but I can't remember. But when Triple H is coming out, he's kind of leading the way, and the fans are booing the shit out of him. And I mean big time. So they're booing him loudly, very loudly, and they start chanting, "You fucked up. You fucked up. You fucked up. You fucked up." So all of the roster is out there. They surround the ring. Triple H is up on the apron, and John Cena comes and gives him a hug, and the crowd is booing so hard, and Triple H just has that douchebag laugh look on his face. Ha, ha, ha. God, I just want to reach to the fucking screen and just choke him. And he's almost like just laughing it off like, these fucking fools or whatever. But they were probably just joking about the heat. Cena probably said something to him like, good heat, boss, or whatever. So they're probably just laughing about that. But just the look on Triple H's face, how he couldn't give a fuck, that the fans were booing, is just like infuriating. So he hugs John Cena, and he directs John Cena to the Tron, where they then play a really, really beautiful video package for John Cena that they put together. And then they had the split screen. And then they had the split screen of the video package and John Cena up in the upper left of the screen there. And they were just begging for tears. The whole reason the camera was on him is so they could get those tears. And that's what they were going for with the finish. It's the same thing about the streak. They were going for the moment. They were trying to create the moment, because WWE is all about moments. Very rarely about common sense. They're about moments. And they had the video package up there while the second camera was focused on John Cena, hoping that he would get emotional. And he really didn't, until they show some archived footage of Vince McMahon. A lot of people speaking in the video package about John Cena. They cut to a clip that had to have been close to 20 years old. Probably 18 years old was when Vince had the funny hair. So it would have been after he shaved his head. So it was probably from 2007 or maybe 2008 when this interview was conducted with Vince. And when they showed Vince on the video package, that's when you finally saw emotion on John Cena's face. Isn't that nice? Dude is just a rock through the whole thing. And the minute he sees Vince, the sex trafficker, all of a sudden now it's emotional. It's almost fitting, isn't it? So I love John, but my God, he sometimes can be hard to stomach. But yeah, the fact that it took Vince McMahon for John Cena to show any emotion there and to have any waterworks come out was pretty funny. So they went through the video package, which, all seriousness and all jokes aside, was beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. It's like the 5th or 6th video package we've gotten throughout this entire, last few weeks of John Cena's career. The one that they did with all the wrestlers, holding up the hustle, loyalty, respect, and I can see you signs. That was really nice and just totally wholesome. And this video package was good as well. And John Cena watched it, and then when it was over, he didn't hug or shake anybody's hand. He didn't walk around the ring thanking the fans and the wrestlers that were there. He just got straight, or before he got straight out, I should say, before he did that, he actually took off all of his gear. So not all of his gear, not his jorts, but he took off his shoes, which weren't Reebok pumps. Jey Uso called them raggedy-ass Skechers. He said John Cena left his raggedy-ass Skechers in the ring, and it was funny. When we were watching the match, I even said to Elizabeth, I'm like, it looks like Cena is wearing Skechers. And I think they are Skechers. They might have been, but Jey Uso was like, he left them raggedy-ass Skechers in the ring. So he takes off his armbands, takes off his wristbands, and he takes off his shoes, and he leaves them right there in the middle of the ring. A lot of people feel like he should have taken off the jorts. I kind of think he should have too. He was wearing boxers under there. He should have taken off the jorts and laid them there, because when the fuck is he ever going to wear jorts again? So he should have taken everything off and just walked out in his unmentionables. I think that would have been even more perfect. But kind of like The Undertaker did at the end of WrestleMania 33, John Cena left his gear right there in the ring and then walked to the back, gave a little salute to the crowd as he left the building, or at least left the ring area. and just walked to the back. And that was it. And that was the end of John Cena in the WWE, or as a pro wrestler. I shouldn't say in the WWE because he has signed a 5-year ambassador deal with the company, which I think was probably done to prevent Tony Khan throwing $10 million at him to come in and do some sort of appearance. So that's it. John Cena is done. His career is now effectively over. And like I said, if there was 2 things I would have changed about it, number 1, I would have changed the tap out to a pass out, and I would have had Cena speak at the end. I think it would have been really nice if he just said a couple of words, one final goodbye to all of us would have been nice. But, him just kind of going out, leaving it all there in the ring, saying his goodbye, that's it. I'm trying to think then, what is the last words John Cena spoke to us on the microphone? When was he last on the microphone? It had to have been before Survivor Series. When was the last time John Cena was in the ring with a mic in his hand? It must have been that Madison Square Garden show. It's got to be that Madison Square Garden show, I guess, right? When him and Sheamus and Ray won the six-man. Because he didn't cut any promo at Survivor Series before or after his match, I don't think. So it would have been nice if that would have been like John Cena's final promo as well. Just after the match, his final words to the crowd, just say a few things. But he didn't. He left, saluted us, and called it a career. And and Michael Cole, by the way, with a tremendous call during the finish. Like I said when we opened here, he said, professional wrestling destroyed sports entertainment. So that's quite a call right there. I mean, if Triple H is trying to claim that we're going to enter some new era in WWE, which I don't believe anything he says these days, but if that's what they're doing, that almost felt like a shot to Vince. Professional wrestling, something that Vince McMahon didn't want anybody to say. He didn't want the words pro wrestling to be uttered. And to say pro wrestling destroyed sports entertainment feels like it's a direct shot at him, which is also fine with me. Michael Cole also shouted out Taz and Jerry the King Lawler. Or I'm sorry, Taz and Jim Ross. Both got shout-outs from Michael Cole, which I thought was nice, since they were calling a lot of John Cena matches together, especially in those early days of SmackDown, of Cole and Taz. So there was, like I said, mixed emotions, but there was a lot of good about that match. Like I said, the match in the ring, I didn't think it was that bad. Maybe a little bit anticlimactic at the end because the sleeper hold sequence took so long before we got to the tap out that, it just kind of sucked all the energy or the life out of the match. I guess I understand that critique as well. But at the end of the day, I can't spend too much time dwelling on this because now, John Cena's career is over. We're not going to be seeing him on TV and shit. So this is going to have to be brought up in future podcasts and things like that when we're doing Q&As. Do you think John Cena losing was the right call? Just like we say the same thing today about the Undertaker streak. We still debate that, and we're probably going to debate John Cena's for years to come as well. But in the end, I was trying my best, I think everybody should, to try to just appreciate watching a career basically from start to finish, where you had a beginning and you have a definitive end, to where Cena's not going to come back for a Saudi Arabia payday or for some WrestleMania match when he's 58 or whatever the fuck. He's done. And to have a career that's that significant to pro wrestling, he was like the new Hogan, only not a piece of shit. He's a real role model to kids. And he carried that role well for so many years. So that was a legendary career, and we get to watch it end together, not in a situation where you don't know if he's going to come back or he may have a match one day, he may not. We don't know if we've seen the last of John Cena. You're not going to have any of those questions. We know. So I was trying my best to appreciate the fact that John Cena might be the very first guy in fucking history to retire. Because Steve Austin and Shawn Michaels, they were on track to do it. I believed both of them. I'm like, I don't think Shawn's coming back. I don't think Steve's coming back. And then lo and behold, it's Steve versus Kevin Owens, which was tremendous. I didn't mind that at all. But the Saudi Arabia match with bald Shawn was a disgrace. I bet you he wishes he could have that one back, only if keep the paycheck. So Terry Funk, Mick Foley, Rowdy Piper, multiple retirements each. So, Cena actually doing it here, and Undertaker, I never said I was retiring. Brother, you put your fucking hat and gloves in the ring at the end of the main event of WrestleMania 33, which wasn't even a title match. They gave you the main event because they thought it was your last match. Now you're like, oh, I never said that. You fucked up. It should have been your last match. That should have been it. Now you had to retire in the Thunderdome. That's what you get. That's what you get. No sympathy at all for you, Undertaker. And you had to have your last match in a boneyard and your retirement ceremony in the Thunderdome. Way to go, Mark. At least John Cena gets to go out in front of 19,000 people, surrounded by his peers, his fans, people who love him, and hopefully got a send-off that was at least satisfying enough to John Cena, even if it wasn't satisfying enough to all of the fans. All in all, it was a flawed retirement tour. I have a lot of mixed feelings about the retirement tour as well. So many things that WWE dropped the ball on. WWE, the fans booing Triple H last night, I think maybe should be booing him more for how they handled the retirement tour more than just how the match went last night. Because like I said, the match went last night was likely John Cena's idea. We don't know for sure, but it probably was. So, but the retirement tour is a completely different story. Even this week, on the media rounds, John Cena basically admitted that the heel turn at Elimination Chamber was done just for a viral moment with no follow-through really even planned. So Triple H, they did a lot of stupid things in this retirement run. They wasted time. They did things they didn't need to do. And I think if you could have it all back, you'd redo the whole thing almost completely differently. I think John Cena's retirement run, and you say yay or nay if you agree with this in the chat, but I feel John Cena's retirement run, not so much his match last night with Gunther, but the retirement run is as big of a fumble as the invasion. I believe that. It had its moments, just like the invasion did. Because the invasion angle wasn't all bad. The way it kicked off was tremendous with ECW and WCW forming the alliance and Stephanie coming out and all that. That was all great. There's some good matches in there with Angle and Austin, some pay-per-views with a lot of energy and stuff. But overall, the angle, the opportunity that they had of WCW being absorbed and purchased, and now they can do this interpromotional war, on their TV, and they fumbled it so badly. And I think John Cena, looking back, you had an entire year. John Cena gave them 6 months to plan. He announced his retirement, at Money in the Bank in 2024? And he said 2025 is going to be my final year, which didn't even start for 6 more months. So he's basically saying, I'm not even going to start my retirement tour for 6 more months. Why in the fucking fuck did you not take those 6 months and create a special year for John Cena? To where here's what we have, here's what we like to do. We take you here first, and then you take you down this road, you go into WrestleMania, and barring any injuries or unforeseen circumstances, this is how we want your retirement tour to go. But no, they just flew by the seat of their pants. They started figuring shit out as soon as 2025 hit. Oh, we better start coming up with shit for John Cena. And it just sucked. The WrestleMania main event was one of the worst WrestleMania main events of all time. And John Cena turned heel. You fumbled the heel turn. There's no Rock. There's nothing else going on. And you're like, why the fuck did you even turn him heel then? I would have rather have not done it. I would have rather I wish we could erase the entire heel turn from John Cena's retirement tour and just have him be regular John Cena and have as many matches with people on the roster that he wants to have them with that he can. Work with as many guys, give as many people the rub as possible. Sure, maybe win a belt or two, which he did. To give the fans a thrill. Can't just be a losing tour for the whole year. You got to win some stuff. You got to give the fans some moments. But I think so much of it, outside of the last 4 months, which I thought was great. I really enjoyed the SummerSlam match with Cody. I hated WrestlePalooza, but I liked what he did with Dom. So, at the end, I was kind of fine with the kind of the tail end of his run and the very, very beginning of his run. But that middle part, that heel turn was regrettable. And I think WWE regrets it, and I hope they do. I don't think it should have been done, looking back in hindsight. So the retirement run was flawed, and that blame I think you definitely can put on WWE. You can put that on Triple H. I'm not 100% convinced if you can put the blame on what happened last night on Triple H, even though I'm very, very delighted that he heard the boos as loudly as he heard them to his face. I don't know if he's really to blame for that. He is, however, to blame for how horribly they fumbled John Cena's retirement tour and how much better they could have done with it. And I'm always going to have a fair amount of regret when it comes to that looking back as we go years into the future. You know, when I look back at Cena and his retirement run, I'm probably going to look at it very similarly to how I look at the Invasion. You know, I did enjoy it somewhat at the time, but you couldn't help but think while it was going on that something ain't right. You know, something isn't feeling right about this. And a good portion of John Cena's retirement run was like that. And I'm a little bummed out that we're always, as fans, going to have that regret, you know? But all in all, John Cena's career is now done, and I can move on with my wrestling fandom. I can move on with my life with satisfactory closure. Maybe not the type of closure I fully wanted, but it's enough to where this is not going to be something I'm going to dwell on too hard. You know, I'm not going to obsess over this or let it bug me too much. There was still a lot about last night that I did like. It was very emotional seeing John Cena have his final match, have his final entrance, his final five-knuckle shuffle, laying his gear in the ring, Cody and Punk putting the belts on him, watching the video package, fans clapping, all that was nice. You know, I just might have changed a few things, you know, leading up to that. That's all. But thank you, Cena, for a tremendous career. 23 years in WWE and about 20 years as being the John Cena that we currently know. This character put in a lot of time, and I always had his back. We talked a lot about that yesterday, so I'm not going to rehash my feelings on Cena and, you know, how I felt about him and all my opinions on his career. If you want to hear about all that, you can check out yesterday's podcast. But I appreciate him. I always did. And I was proud to witness his career, all 22 years of it. I had an interesting perspective because a lot of fans that were in the crowd last night, a lot of those fans that were upset, when you looked at them and look at the age they were either kids or they were young adults, which meant they were kids when John Cena was kind of on top. And when John Cena was at the top of his game, that was probably about 18 to 20 years ago. You know, so if you're 8 or you're 12, you're 30 now. So, you know, you got to think about those fans. You know, with me, I was 25 years old when John Cena walked into my life. And by the time he turned into Fruity Pebble John Cena, I was now in my 30s. So I had a completely different perspective on his career and how it affected me as a fan. I didn't have the anger that a lot of other fans did because I was older, and I already experienced the Attitude Era at an age that I could. You know, a lot of people who hated Cena were just little bitty kids with bedtimes at 8 o'clock at night when the Attitude Era was in full swing, and they weren't even allowed to watch it. Now that they're adults, they want all that stuff, and WWE has gone PG on them. So they freaked out, flipped out, and John Cena was the target until Roman Reigns came along, and then they transferred all their hate over to him. But for me and fans like me who are a little bit older, I think we had a completely different kind of view on John Cena than the angry fans did, because that seemed to be reserved for a very specific age group of fans. You didn't see too many 40-year-olds shitting their pants over him winning matches. It was mostly young people, 18 to 25 type of range, who were little pieces of shit during the Attitude Era. And they weren't anymore. And they wanted suckets and beer and middle fingers and swearing and sex and all that, but they couldn't get it. And they were mad, and they took it out on John Cena. Whereas me, I just tried to appreciate the career for what it was, what he brought, what he gave, and I have immense respect for John Cena and always will. So all the best, John, in everything you do, your movies, your TV. He's a movie star and a damn good one. He's a damn good actor. He really is. I'm not saying that. I actually mean that. I think John Cena is an excellent actor, and I hope that we see him more out there. And I think he's going to transition successfully into his movie career. And I wish him nothing but the best. Thanks for everything, John. And that's a wrap on John Cena's career. But John Cena versus Gunther wasn't the only match last night. The show opened up with WWE World Champion Cody Rhodes taking on NXT World Champion Obafemi. And this one was pretty good. The finish was dog shit, but the match was pretty good. Cody was bleeding from the ear. And even on SmackDown on Friday, you could see how perfectly, reminds me of Forrest Gump. For some reason, I fit in the Army like one of them round pegs. You know, when you look at Obafemi, he just fits right in. He better drop that NXT title and come to the main roster pretty soon, because when he was there face-to-face with Cody on the mic, he was hanging with him. He was hanging with him and seemed completely comfortable with the spotlight of that. Same thing with last night in the match. The little bit of match that they had was actually good. Cody was bloody, felt intense. Obafemi didn't look like someone who was trying to test themselves against the greatest. It was Cody trying to test himself against him. Like, he has got main event level just written all over him. And when you think about matches you can have with Brock Lesnar, this could be it. I mean, shit, think about Obafemi and Gunther in the future. There's a lot of matches there to be had with a monster like this coming in. So if seeing Obafemi on Saturday night's main event taught me anything, is that this guy is ready for the main roster now. And do not put him in the U.S. title scene or the IC title scene or put him in a tag. He is main event or nothing. That's how good I think Obafemi is. So the match between Cody and Oba was actually pretty good until Drew McIntyre showed up. He hit the ring, attacked Cody Rhodes, and they went with the DQ finish here. So Cody Rhodes did get the win, but it was in the form of a disqualification when McIntyre interfered. And that's fine. They were in a situation here where they didn't want to beat either one of these guys. So a DQ finish is fine. You don't often see that on TV specials or PLEs, but that's what we got here, and that's all right. And Obafemi was then pissed at Drew for interfering and shoved Drew right on his ass. So Obafemi already standing up to some of the biggest and baddest in the company, and here he is in there with current world champion Cody, former world champion Drew, and he's throwing both of them around. So Obafemi, much like Gunther, much like Braun Breaker, that guy is going to be the future. I think Oba and Breaker specifically could be your Cena and Batistas. You know, I think that could be your new Cena and Batista, is an Obafemi and a Braun Breaker in terms of their dominance. And then you still have Gunther there, you still got Drew there, you still got Brock there, you still got a lot of big guys, a lot of beef. Bronson Reed, comes to mind. Damian Priest, Aleister Black. There's just a lot of big bad hombres in WWE right now, and that's kind of awesome. I like big hombres. So Cody defeated Obafemi last night via DQ. The only match I got wrong in my predictions was Bayley and Sol Ruca. I was kind of thinking WWE was going to go for like the fully loaded 2000 type of finish where Benoit, Jericho, and Angle all got big matches against WWE's top brass or top tier talent, and they all lost. So I thought that was going to be the same thing they were going to do here, but no, Sol Ruca actually gets the win in a really fun match. I actually enjoyed it. Bayley, I remember one part in the match where Bayley went for the rose plant and Sol Ruca just cartwheels out of it, which was pretty awesome. And then she wound up hitting the Soul Snatcher on Bayley. Did she hit two of them? Can't remember if it's two or one, but the one that she hit on Bayley near the end of the match, she hits on Bayley, and Bayley then rolls smartly kind of to the ring apron, and Sol then drags her in. Bayley rolls up Sol Ruca, but then Ruca reverses it, rolls up Bayley, and gets the quick pin on her and wins the match. And you can see the surprise on her face there. And you had, what's her name, Zarya from NXT, and I think you had Lyra was out there in Bayley's corner, I think. So you didn't have a whole lot of interference here or anything like that. It was just kind of a one-on-one straight-up win here for Sol Ruca, and I'm pleasantly surprised by that victory. Good for her. I'm glad that she won that match. We mentioned yesterday in the predictions that Bayley just got done running that free camp where she flew in all these wrestlers to work out and train. She seems to really be into giving back to the business as well. So her putting over here Sol Ruca here was great, because Sol Ruca is going to be a big deal on the roster. I think all of the NXT people that they featured tonight are going to be big, big parts of WWE's future. And Sol Ruca has been on my radar ever since I saw her, just in developmental in NXT when she was getting those early preliminary matches. This is before the knee injury. It's been a while ago, and I remember seeing her for the first time saying, oh my, Charlotte has met her match in this one right here. This is going to be the new Charlotte. She's going to be better. She's going to be more fun to watch. She's going to be hotter. Everything about her is going to be better, and watch out for Sol Ruca. Now she's here. Big win over Bayley last night, and I'm super happy for her. Good for you. Sol Ruca. You're one of my favorites. Unfortunately, the tag match didn't get much time. 6-7 minutes here is all AJ Styles, Dragon Lee got against Javon Evans and Leon Slater, but they packed a lot in to this short amount of time, I will say that. And Javon Evans, my God, he's a lot like an Obafemi, a lot like a Sol Ruca, a lot like a Braun Breaker, just somebody that you're like, okay, they're going to be a can't miss. He's a can't miss. And I like Javon Evans. I really, really like his energy. His athleticism is off the charts. Leon Slater is great as well, but I don't know, Javon Evans just stands out a little bit more. Plus, with Leon Slater in there, he's a TNA star. He's going to be the one eating the pin here, and of course he did. He got Styles clashed and pinned, and AJ and Dragon Lee win the match. It was a non-title match, but they got the win there. It was great, and it was short, and I'm happy that we got some exposure for Javon Evans because he's another one that I'm like, I don't know what we're waiting on with him. You know, do we really need to wait on Javon Evans? Get him up to the main roster. Let's start doing stuff with him. The only thing that worries me is that there's a lot of guys that have that similar type of athleticism that Javon Evans has, specifically Montez Ford, who's currently locked into a tag team and we thought was going to get a singles push 3 or 4 years ago, and that has not materialized yet. So with Javon Evans, at least he's a single star. So when you have somebody that comes along that has, you know, superhuman fucking athleticism, at least with Javon Evans, he's not in a tag team, where Montez, you know, his athleticism, I think, is like stuck, you know, where Javon, it might be a completely different story. And like I said, I love Javon's energy. He lights up a room when he comes out. He's very Maxine Dupree-ish in that way. I think of them very similarly, even though I think Javon is a better pro wrestler than Maxine is. They have the same effect on me as a fan. Like when they come out, I go, I'm so happy they're here. You know, it's like that. So good outing for Evans and for Slater in the losing effort against the tag team champions. And then before the main event, we got a little impromptu segment here with The Miz. The Miz comes out there, and he's wearing the same robe that he wore at WrestleMania 27 when he main evented and defeated John Cena. And he's out there cutting this intense promo, bitching and moaning about not being the one to face John Cena. And he's then interrupted by R-Truth, who comes out. And R-Truth, this was brilliantly done, actually. R-Truth comes out and he talks about how the last time we saw The Miz, he was messing with Aldis's balls or whatever, and that was when Miz was fucking with the Last Time Is Now tournament, and apparently he took a ball or stole someone's opportunity, and R-Truth was out there to tell him whose opportunity he stole. The name is in this ball. He opens up, he gives it to the Miz. Miz opens it, and it was a brilliant camera shot because you could see, it was like transparent. So you could see Joe Hendry's name written through the paper there, and the fans could see it on the Tron. So just by seeing, by Miz holding up that piece of paper backwards, you could read it on the screen, and the fans started reacting. And Miz goes, Joe Hendry, say his name. And Hendry immediately, the song starts, and Hendry immediately then appears on the apron and spins around and does the thing. It was just so perfectly executed, and I got a huge kick out of that. So Hendry then gets in the ring, and him and R-Truth, they beat up the Miz. And it was a fun little side segment that I wasn't expecting. It gave Joe Hendry an opportunity to be on Saturday night's main event as well, even though he wasn't working in a match. And it was a nice little moment there with Hendry. I think the fans got a kick out of it, and it was a little breather, little nice moment before we got to the main event, which, of course, was John Cena and Gunther. So overall, Saturday night's main event as a show, I thought was very good. I thought it was good. I liked all the matches. Cody and Oba, even with the DQ finish, I enjoyed. I liked seeing them in the ring together, getting a look at Obafemi in this type of environment against the WWE's top star, how he holds up. He did great in his promo on Friday on SmackDown, and he did great last night in his match against Cody on Saturday night's main event. Sol Ruca getting the big win over Bayley, I liked. The tag match was short, but great. And we got a look at Joe Hendry, who always receives a big pop. And then, of course, John Cena and Gunther, which everything was pretty much going okay up until, the little tap there. And then that's kind of when the disappointment set in for the fans. But overall, I thought the show was pretty much what I expected it to be. I didn't really get anything out of Saturday night's main event last night that I wasn't expecting. Even in the Cena match, like we've been talking about for weeks and months, I said he was going to lose. And he should. And if he taps out, that would be very poetic. But now that we've seen it happen and we witnessed it, now that's up for debate. Maybe the tap out, not so good. I think I would have preferred a pass out to where at least John Cena could stay true to who he was. It still would have given Gunther the same rub. It's not Gunther's fault that John Cena doesn't tap out. It's not like Gunther can lock the sleeper in any tighter. John Cena just doesn't give up because that's not what he does. So he passed out. It would have the same effect. Gunther could still brag for decades to come that he retired John Cena. It wouldn't have meant anything. If he would have just passed out instead, it wouldn't have changed anything. I still think fans would have been upset. I still think you would have had a portion of the audience that thought John Cena should win. But I think at least if he would have passed out, that might lighten the amount of criticisms that we did have. We'd still have them, but I don't know if you'd have that deflating kind of, oh, really? If he would have just passed out, if he would just fought to the end, screaming and fighting and clawing and finally just succumbing, I think that would have had the same effect and perhaps a better effect. But we got the tap out, and that's what we're going to have to live with, isn't it? Let's see what you guys have to say in the chat about things before I get out of here, because we got to come back in just a little while, by the way, for In Your House, D-Generation X. We're going to be watching this in an hour and a half, 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific. We're going to be back live to watch In Your House, DX. Get a look at that one from 28 years ago. So make sure you join us for that here in just a little bit. Let me knock out the rest of the supers, and then I will probably be on my way so I can have a little snack before we regroup for the watch-along. Want to make sure I don't miss any super chats or anything like that. Yeah, good point. There was no Randy Orton, no Austin, no Flair. Well, that's okay. I don't think Austin would be there. It looked like they flew in a good amount of people. I saw Zelina Vega out there, which was good to see her after that little scare she had in her match on SmackDown last night. So they basically just had some of the roster, or most of it, but not all. Hello, hello, hello. Everybody that's saying hello. Sting's retirement, I think, was kind of better, to be honest. And you're mentioning Sting when I was asking who's won their last match. Sting. And Sting, the funny thing about that is, the ironic part about that is Sting wanted to lose. Tony was like, you're winning, son. No, I'm putting my foot down. I'm the boss. You're winning. So that was a Tony Khan call, not a Sting call. It was up to Sting. I think he wanted to put those guys over, but nope. All right. Is that the next one? I think is from Shell Shock. Just want to make sure I don't miss anything or anybody. Yeah, Shell Shock, you're my next super chat. Thank you very much for that very generous $20 drop there. John Cena is my all-time favorite wrestler. He was the first wrestler I ever got emotionally invested with. I was crying last night, and I'm not ashamed in saying that. Thank you, John Cena. You're my hero and my GOAT. And that's the thing. I was getting caught up in it too. I was at work, and I was trying to watch my phone, and I'm like, this is really kind of emotional. If we would have done a watch-along last night, yeah, I would have been very emotional. Because even though we would have debated the tap out and, oh my God, it would have been hard to, or at least for me, maybe some other fans are just so fixated on hating the finish, they don't care about anything else. But I can kind of let that go and then just say, okay, we can debate that later. Now let's at least appreciate and watch John Cena have his farewell, say goodbye to the audience, get the love from the locker room, play the video package, all that stuff. I definitely would have gotten caught up in it last night if we would have been live, for sure. For sure. But I like hearing opinions like that. I like seeing opinions from fans that truly did grow up watching him or truly did grow up loving him, because that's a big part of the audience there. People who are now in their 20s or maybe even their 30s who were just a kid when John Cena really started getting rolling 20 years ago. So it's going to have a different effect on you than it might on me or some other fans. And that's what's great about wrestling, is because you have all different ages, all different age groups of wrestling, watching different shit at different time periods and having different perspectives. And it affects them differently than it does. Not everybody is affected by wrestling the same way because we're all different ages. And you experience it and consume it at different times in your life and in different ways. And so we all have different reactions to what we see. And that's why fans who, say this should be this way or it should be that way or this was dumb. No, you just think it was dumb. Might not be dumb to somebody else just because you think it's dumb. It's this center of the universe complex that a lot of wrestling fans have, that what they think is the only thing that should be. A lot of podcasters and YouTubers have that attitude too. Very few of them can kind of understand multiple viewpoints on wrestling. No, it's what I say goes. That's a stupid way to look at it. And it's arrogant. Who else we got? Good to see other guys in here. I recognize Super Fluffy, Beetle 911. White Mamba, good to see you. T85. Scrolling down to my next one here. Garrett Osborne, appreciate the $5, bro. Definitely make sure to see Cody versus Acme next August in theaters. John Cena plays the evil corporate lawyer. Okay, maybe I will. I don't think I'm going to see it in the theater. When it shows up on Amazon, I'll watch it there. I don't like movies. I don't want to get shot. I'm so worried somebody's going to come in there and Dark Knight me or something. Don't want that to happen. I'll just stay home and watch it. Devin, let me take a look at your channel name just in case I know you, which I don't think I do. Devin Udaram. I can't pronounce shit, but anyway, Devin, thank you so much, my friend, for the $9.99. It really feels kind of insulting, the lack of odd topsoils and other top stars and other superstars who they didn't show or even asked to be there. It should have been grander than it was. Maybe, but it was a 4-match card in Washington, D.C. You can't have everybody there. And there's some people that probably didn't want to come. I mean, The Rock probably was too busy. There's some people like, I don't want to fly in just for that. Like, I love John, but I live in Oregon. Well, I don't want to fly to Washington, D.C. just to sit there and hug him. Like I can just send him a tweet or something. So, yeah, I see it would have been nice if there was more people there, but I don't know, there was enough there. But like when you looked at Ric Flair's, that was different. Ric Flair was the night after WrestleMania where the entire roster is there. This was a standalone show outside of a Raw or SmackDown or a pay-per-view. It's not attached to any of that. So you're only going to fly in who you need. So it's different, where the night after Mania, there might be way more people there. So if John Cena would have retired at WrestleMania or retired the night after WrestleMania, then you would have had a fuckload more people out there. But I think just because it was Saturday night's main event, you had who you had. And that didn't bug me too much. And I'm not too worried about feeling insulted about that. I live my life by the motto of pick your battles, and I think there's some battles that aren't worth fighting, and that's one of them to me. Yeah, there was a little botch, right, in the tag team match. I did catch that. Yeah, you guarantee Cena wanted to see Mr. McMahon last night? Yeah, he probably did, and the way he got he was not emotional at all watching the video package until they showed Vince's face, and then all of a sudden, John. What are we going to do with you, John Felix Anthony Cena? Calling it a career last night on Saturday night's main event. And I'm going to call it a podcast here right now because I want to take a little bit of a break before we come back and do our watch along tonight. So make sure you join us in less than an hour and a half. We're going to be back here at 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific to watch In Your House D-Generation X, traveling all the way back 28 years ago to when that went down. And we'll be watching that tonight here together in just a little bit. But I want to thank you guys for hanging out today and listening to me talk about my thoughts on John Cena's final match and all of my feelings and opinions on what happened, whether it was right, whether it was wrong. And this is a debate that we'll probably touch on here and there for years to come. We'll probably always look back or circle back to this moment every now and then. Hey, Greg, you still feel the same way about John Cena's final match? And I probably will. I'm not as firmly on one side or the other as other fans are, but I can certainly understand the disappointment from last night, while at the same time understanding that this is kind of what we saw coming for the last 5 months. So you got to balance that, saying, okay, I'm kind of shocked, but we also knew that was going to happen, so there's got to be an in-between. To flip out and throw poo on the wall and die on hills over this is just a little bit silly. I don't think it's that, that big of a deal, but I think for the moment and for what the fans wanted, might have been nice to have a little bit more than what we got. But in the end, John Cena's career is over, and I would rather focus on appreciating him and appreciating the career that he had than dwelling on how it all ended. And so that's the way I'm choosing to handle it. Fans can choose any way they want to handle it or however they want to cope with it or whatever it is. Choose your own adventure there. My adventure, I'm choosing to appreciate his career and have immense love and respect for John Cena and everything he gave us as wrestling fans. I always appreciate anybody that gives their life, their body, and everything they are to the business. I appreciate it. They worked hard to entertain me. So I tread carefully when it comes to my critiques because I want to show respect. And I respect John Cena, and I think I always will. So that is it. We'll be talking about John Cena again in the future, I'm sure, but we will never be here to review another one of his matches. This is the final time that I will ever review a John Cena match. And I just want to say, in 15 years on YouTube, I appreciate the memories, guys. I really do. We've talked about a lot of John Cena matches since 2010. All of his pay-per-views, his title wins. He had a few before then, but since then, all things we've talked about, all the matches and the moments and the time periods in John Cena's career over the past 15 years, we've talked about everything. We've reviewed nearly probably every single John Cena match that he's ever had since 2010. I have reviewed it or given you my thoughts on that. And yesterday was the end of an era for a lot of people. It was for him, for the WWE, for the wrestling fans, and for podcasters and for YouTubers and people like me who cover wrestling for a living, who've talked about John Cena for the last decade and a half. I'm not going to be talking about him in a wrestling match, style ever again. We're never going to review another John Cena match. This was it. This is the final John Cena match I will ever review unless we do a retro review or anything like that. But, to me, that's kind of significant too, that this is the final time we'll ever talk about a John Cena match. So thank you to everyone who's here now. And thank you to everyone who's been here for the last 15 years on this YouTube journey with me that was born partially out of me wanting to stand up for that very man right there on the screen. Big day. Big day. Thanks for everything, John Cena. We appreciate it. We love you. And I love you guys. I'll catch y'all in just a little while for our classic watch along. Have a great rest of your Sunday if you're not joining us, but please make sure you do. And I'll catch y'all in just a little bit. Peace.